What's going on, guys? It's Cali Q here, and today, yes, I'm going over my top underrated JRPGs. Now listen, disclaimer, I'm going to keep it all the way real. I'm not just going to mention JRPGs for the sake of filling out my top 10 list or a list like that. Actually, I think I got about 5 or 6 on here. So just enjoy the video. Know that I'm keeping it real from my personal JRPG experiences and games that have a personal connection to me. So I like to keep it real with you guys, and I'm not just going to add fluff for the sake of adding fluff. These are my top underrated JRPGs that I've played and that I think deserve a little bit more love, a little bit more recognition. And once again, another disclaimer, underrated doesn't necessarily mean I'm saying they're perfect or that they're not repetitive or that they're not without flaws. They're just games that I wish would come up more in the conversation of JRPGs in certain aspects. All right, enough talk. Let's go ahead and jump into the list. Let's go, guys. Now at number 1, I have Dark Cloud. Now to me, this game will always be a sleeper hit, and it'll always be one of those pioneer JRPGs for the PS2. I believe this game came out somewhere in like 2001, 2002. I remember it being one of the first PlayStation 2 games I had ever played, and quite frankly, to be honest, I hated it. I was super young and I just didn't know exactly what to do, and the difficulty was quite high for someone my age. When I look back at this game, man, what it was trying to accomplish, what it was trying to do, the vibe that it has, the aesthetic that it has, I really appreciate the original Dark Cloud so much. Now I know Dark Cloud 2 is regarded very highly and is one of the best PlayStation 2 games you can get your hands on. However, I want to focus on one today. I want to focus on the origin game that started it all, Dark Cloud 1. I mean, this game was so unique. I mean, you literally will go into this dungeon, you will go in and out of this dungeon sort of, and you would gather these pieces of the village that was like sealed away in the dungeon, and then you could come out and rebuild the village the way that you wanted to. Now I believe there was a certain way that you had to rebuild the village in order for it to be like, you know, perfect. I really liked the sense of freedom that the game gave you to kind of build the village the way that you wanted to. You could gather their houses, you could gather like things like windmills, ponds, all these sort of things. And let's go on to the combat. The combat was really like a free-flowing JRPG action sort of combat, and honestly so many games today tries to do this sort of combat, and you know, a couple games come to mind, and I'm not comparing here, but you know, this game reminds me of like a Zelda light game sort of, because of the way that you can gather the new weapons, the way that you can kind of run around the dungeon and fight these enemies in this free-flowing style of action JRPG. It was very, very unique to me at the time. I mean, I remember getting poisoned all the time as a kid. I remember the speed of the weapons. I remember gathering items. And then you could also change the characters that you had, and each character had their own different play styles. I remember the little cat girl, the guy with the hammer, and this game was just so unique in how you could swap between the different characters, leave the dungeon, go to the village. I just really enjoyed this game, man, and if any of you played it, let me know if you played it. But I think this game is underrated, and I would love a remaster or even a remake to kickstart the series once again. I have no idea why Level 5 won't bring back the Dark Cloud series. However, maybe that's a conversation for another day. Number 1, I definitely have Dark Cloud. This game was so unique, and it even had good music too. I just think this game needs more love, man, and even myself, I'm going to go back and reappreciate it for what it is. So I got Dark Cloud 1 at number 1. Now at number 2, we going with a little game called Rogue Galaxy. When I say little, I mean big. This game was off the chain. I absolutely really liked this game, okay? It's not one of my favorite or top JRPGs, but I think it had one of the best presentations and the best overall packages in a PS2 JRPG at the time. I mean, the graphics were really good. I really enjoyed the characters, and the gameplay was just sick. I really liked Rogue Galaxy, and the truth is, I've only ever beat it one time. I need to go back and actually replay this game again, and I myself needs to give it a little bit more love. I don't really hear this game come up in the conversation that often. I don't know if it got overshadowed by Final Fantasies or other big PS2 JRPGs of the time. I don't know if it came out too late for the PlayStation 2. I don't know what it is, but if you go back and play you some Rogue Galaxy, you guys will really enjoy this game. I mean, it is phenomenal. I really liked it. Another aspect I liked of it is I really enjoyed the story. I thought the story took me in a direction that was so unique, so interesting, and just so different. I mean, look at the cast of characters. I got a lot of respect for games like Star Ocean and sci-fi JRPGs and the like, but this game really gives you a diverse cast. I mean, there's humanoids, there's dogs, there's robots. I mean, this game gave you such a diverse cast of characters, and it makes sense. When you're going across the galaxy and you're traveling to these different places, there should be a plethora of different human-like and species out there in the world. When you're speaking about galaxies and space, make it diverse, make it unique. So many games fall into the trap of just making humanoid characters with elf ears or something like that. This game really embodied different character variety in the styles and the different party members that you could have, and I just think this is a gem and a jewel for the PlayStation 2. Look at this battle system, one of the best free-flowing action battle systems I think I've ever seen. The game is just smooth, it runs well. Jaster had a great amount of different attacks and things that he could use, from ranged attacks to using his sword. This game is just so underrated to me. I'm sorry, I do not hear a lot of people talk about it, but for me, I gotta throw Rogue Galaxy in here. I need to go back and play this game. I've only beat it one time in my entire life, so you know what? I'm going to go ahead and put it on the catalog. I'm going to revisit Rogue Galaxy. Let me know if you guys have played this game. Now, my next one is a little hidden gem named Evolution Worlds that initially came out on the Sega Dreamcast in the early 90s. Evolution 1 came out for the Dreamcast, and then Evolution 2 came out for the Dreamcast as well. And that would be the end of the series. However, for some odd reason, the games got a re-release on the Nintendo GameCube somewhere in 2002 or 2003, I believe, and the package just had both of the games together and they called it Evolution Worlds. Now, this game has a lot of flaws. It's basically just a dungeon crawler. A lot of the dungeons are the same and they're very repetitive. But this game had a lot of potential. The charm, the characters, even the aesthetic to a degree. This game had a great potential to be something really great. But I must admit, I played the heck out of this game when I was a youngin' on my Sega Dreamcast. Me and my brother did. So the reason I'm bringing this game up is because you really don't hear about this game too much when it comes to Sega Dreamcast and the JRPGs on that system. However, it was a pretty standard affair JRPG. I just put it on this list because if you play it, you could honestly see the potential that it had. Honestly, sometimes it gives me like a Tales of vibe. It gives me a Tales of game vibe, and it was quite the charming little game. Now, another thing that I think this game did pretty well was I really enjoyed the music. It was nice, whimsical, lighthearted, and it really helped capture the mood of the different environments and the places that you would go. Ultimately, this was a group of basically just treasure hunters, and they would go into these ruins and always look for these treasures. You had Mag, you had Linear, and you had a little girl called Chain, and it was just a nice little adventure. It was a nice Saturday morning cartoon, lighthearted adventure, and I just think the game has so much potential. If they could have just fixed the repetitive nature of the dungeon, given it a proper fleshed out story with actual different locations and locales to visit, then this game could have really been a big hit on the Sega Dreamcast. I know we always talk about Grandia and how amazing that was for the JRPGs seen on the Dreamcast, as well as Skies of Arcadia, but I think if this little gem had just fixed a couple flaws, it could have really been something great. So I may revisit it in the future just to see if my opinion holds up, but again, don't expect anything too special, but it was pretty standard affair JRPG. I mean, late 90s, early 2000s vibe. Go ahead and consider giving this one a shot. Evolution 1 and 2 on the Sega Dreamcast, and Evolution Worlds for the Nintendo GameCube. But good luck finding that. Next is Phantasy Star Universe. Now I know before you Phantasy Star Online fans come at my head and get me, listen, this game had a special place for me because this was my first venture into the Phantasy Star series. Truthfully, this was my first time that I really gave this series a real chance, and I remember it was on my struggle days of the Xbox 360 and I just didn't have many JRPGs to play. But just on a whim, I saw this game at the video game rental store and I just rented it and gave it a chance, and I ended up playing it the full 5 days straight when I had it rented from the video store. There was nothing particularly truly special about this game, but at the time it just filled a void that was really good for me. But the true essence of this game, where it really shines for me, is it was my first online experience. I remember I had a PS2. I went and bought the PS2 version of this game. I plugged in my Ethernet in the back of my PlayStation 2, signed up for the subscription service, and what do you know, that began my online gaming journey, my online MMO RPG journey. I also realized that this game is sort of classified as an MMO as well, but the specific game itself was a JRPG, and it had a story. You would go through the story, you could get upgrades, weapons, equipment, and the game has not aged really well, but it just had a special place for me. Anybody who's a PSU fan, Phantasy Star Universe fan, you know exactly what I'm saying. There's just something about this game, especially when you got to the online play. I spent numerous hours playing this game. I spent numerous hours trying to get the better equipment, grinding for weapons, grinding for money, farming, all sorts of things. And the story was relatively decent. It was nothing groundbreaking at the time, but I just thought that this game deserved a little bit more love, especially since I'm not a big New Genesis fan myself. I really miss the Phantasy Star Universe aesthetic. I miss the Phantasy Star Universe vibe, and honestly, I wish it would come back in today's Phantasy Star. Again, this is not a popular opinion. I'm not saying this game was perfect, and I'm not saying this game is a game you must play. But for me, I do think it's underrated considering where the series is at now. And I wouldn't mind if they ever went back and remade Phantasy Star Universe. I think it would be a welcome addition to the Phantasy Star lineup to go back and give this game a shot, remake it, and give it another chance. I really like Phantasy Star Universe. I would love to play it again to see how it holds up, but for me, I had to throw this in on my list of underrated JRPGs because this game at the time, this was the best online experience to me. Now moving on to one of my favorite JRPGs of all time. Guys, listen, let me tell you something about me. I am never going to stop fighting for Legend of Lagia. I am never going to stop bringing this game attention. This is one of the best JRPGs ever that just got misrated, misjudged, and if you went back and played it today, you would truly appreciate how beautiful and how much of a hidden gem that this game actually is. It is not perfect and it has flaws. Some flaws of repetition, some flaws of just at certain times the story being just a little weak. However, this game right here, I mentioned it in my top JRPGs of all time video. I mentioned it in why I got started in JRPGs video. This game will always be a pillar of my JRPG experience, and I want you guys to know that. I want you to go back and dig up this game. Never have I still played a game that implemented a martial arts turn-based fighting system the way that this game mixed it in. But everyone's like, what about Like a Dragon? No. I mean, the way that you could go and control each limbs of your characters for their moveset and figure out new hidden moves within the game. That was the thing. Sometimes you would get scrolls to unlock a new move, sometimes you would learn it from a new master, but there was no greater feeling than learning a new art from pressing in a random combination that you had no idea would have you unlock this cool new move. There were so many combinations that you could play with to unlock potentially new and greater and better moves than the last moves, and there was no better joy than figuring out a new art from just pressing in these random assortments of combinations and buttons. It was still one of the most fulfilling ways I've ever seen to learn a new skill and a new move for your character. I think it was genius. Unfortunately, the second game is not as good. I don't know what happened. Maybe the company's changed, but the quality just isn't there. But even the second game still has that hint and essence of that amazing battle system. It's just the story, the graphics, and everything else about that game was pretty much not the best. But Lagia 1 is one of my favorite JRPG experiences of all time. I highly recommend this game. The story for me was very touching. You got really intimate with the characters, and even though Vaughn was a silent protagonist, his action and those hands did all the talking that he needed to do. So I will always love this game. I also love the way that you could fight the monsters in the mist. You could eventually absorb them with your Rasiru, and that would allow you to then use those monsters in combat and level them up almost like Pokemon. Almost like Pokemon to a degree, where you can level up your monsters while still adding so much more to the gameplay and the game fighting system. So this game right here, Legend of Lagia, I also think the graphics were ahead of its time. When you go into battle mode, you could actually see your character's armor and equipment change. You could also equip weapons like a standard traditional JRPG. You could give Vaughn a sword, you could give him other weapons, you could give Gala like a mace, you could give Noah knives, and it was just really awesome to see visually the new equipment and the new weapons that you will put on your character. This game, I cannot recommend it enough. You have to go check it out. Legend of Lagia for the PlayStation 1. And yes, I will always mention this game as much as I can. Sorry if it's getting repetitive, but I'm always going to stand up and make some noise for this game. Just know that. And rounding out my list, guys, you should have saw this coming, is Radata Stories for the PlayStation 2 system. This game came out in 2005, and I think to this day, this is one of the most unique, underrated, definitely misrated JRPGs of all time. It's in my top 5 JRPGs of all time. I absolutely love Radata Stories. I mean, this game is beautiful. I love the art direction. I love the humor. I love the comedic approach with the hint of seriousness every now and then. This game is such an overlooked beauty of a JRPG. I mean, as I told you guys in my other video, it features a full-fledged day and night system that has schedules for over 100 characters in the world of Radata. Now, these characters range from humans to non-humans, and there's a split in the game that you'll have to make a decision. And I don't want to say more than that because it might be spoilers if you never played it before. But I mean, this game has it all. Beautiful graphics, beautiful aesthetic. I just love the direction and tone of this entire game. This game never takes itself too seriously, and I think that's why it really works for me. Now, once again, the battle system is sort of a Star Ocean 3 light battle system, and that's probably the weakest part of this game, is the battle system. However, I still found a lot of joy in this battle system and playing this game. And not to mention, this game had a little system where you could kick anything in the environment. Yes, that ranged from other NPCs, characters, rocks, enemies. You could kick them, and sometimes they would want to fight you on spot, and rightfully so. But this game was just so unique, man. And recruiting the multitude of different characters in this game. I mean, guys, you can recruit farmers, grocery store workers, fighters, monks, priests, warriors, guild members, castle members. I mean, there's no limit to who you can actually have on your party in this game, and I just love this game for that. I love how it just doesn't take itself too seriously. The music in this game as well is some of my favorite music pieces of JRPG history. So just all in all, guys, Radata Stories is one of the best hidden gems, and I just think it got overlooked for what this game offers, and I still have never seen a JRPG with an intricate day and night schedule system such as this game. You guys find me one and I'll retract my claim, but for right now, no other JRPG does it like Radata, and until this day, it remains one of my most unique experiences I've ever played in JRPGs. And I would love if this game came back. This is another game that I'll never, ever stop talking about and being a pioneer for. I will always be an ambassador for this game. I want it to be remade. I want it to come back, and I'm always going to use my channel to bring attention to Radata Stories. So just know you're going to be hearing about this game a lot from me, and That's a good thing because you need to go play this beauty of a game. There you have it, guys. Those are my top underrated JRPGs that have a personal connection to me, especially games like Radata Stories and Legend of Lagia. I will never stop fighting for those two games. Those games need to get a remake or remaster. Any recognition to those two titles would make me extremely happy. But in the meantime, thank you to my channel members. Thank you guys all for watching my video and supporting my channel and my content. It really means a lot to me. Let me know if you agree or disagree with my list, and put down in the comment section below some titles that I need to check out that you believe is also underrated. In the meantime, thank you guys for supporting the channel. God bless you guys. Thank you so much. The support means everything to me. I'll see y'all on the next video. Always keeping it real on my channel. And I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace out.